podcasting and its effect on Apple journalism. This is MacVoices. Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by Truebill. Get control of your subscriptions at truebill.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This is the third in a three-part MacVoices live conversation about Apple journalism, how it got started, where it's been, where it is now, where it may be going. We also touch on how podcasting has affected Apple journalism and how it may continue to affect how you get your Apple news in the future. Let's go back and let the panel do the talking. I'm not sure what conclusions we're reaching here, but, it is what it is.
We keep mentioning MKBHD. Yeah, would I like to have his 15 million subscribers? Sure, I wouldn't complain. Would I like to have all his videos that get 2 and 3 million views a time? Sure, that'd be pretty nice.
Would you like to manage the staff?
He's got people.
That?
Yeah, he's got he has a company, obviously, because of the gobs of money he's making on all those YouTube hits is got to be really good. But you know what? Yeah, am I jealous? Sure. Is it? But you know what? He does do quality content. iJustine does as well. Yeah. So they both stand out. I mean, he's not completely Apple focused, but he talks about it a lot. But he also talks about other things, and that's what's great about him is because of the fact that, and iJustine too. I mean, you find out about everything. I focus on Apple, but Samsung still has their phones. There's still a lot of people who like their products.
Brand new tablet that just came out.
Yeah, I'm just looking at his video right now. Yeah, he's talking about the Galaxy Tab S8. That'd be interesting to see what other companies are doing. And that's what gets people to see his stuff, because he doesn't just focus on just that. But everybody likes to do different things.
The thing I wonder about with that, though, is, I mean, this has slowly evolved into like advice for the future voices of Mac, not Mac Voices, because you're gonna have to rip Chuck out of his seat to have him give this up. But I do think that, you talked about the people that listen to my show, and David, you're talking about having people listen. There was a good 5 or 6 years where people just didn't listen, and I did it anyway. And like, you have to do it anyway. Like, when people don't listen, you have to do it. And my favorite response, or my favorite thing that people say to me now is, "How have I never heard about you?" Like, to me, that is the thing that
I hear that a lot too.
If you stay in it long enough, you're going to hear it. You're going to hear it a lot. And it's always fun, and yet a little puzzling to say, like, I'm here busting my butt day in and day out, week after week, putting these shows together, coming up with ideas, picking topics, building a community of people, Chuck, in your case, having an entire Slack of potential people that can come in and talk, and planning topics and checking the news and doing all these things. And you still, after 5, 6, 7 years, have people that come up and go, "Wow, you've got a really cool thing coming together. How have I never heard about this?" And in your head, you're just like, do I need to hire like a PR person? Do I need like an advertiser like on my staff and my team? And in some cases, the answer is yes. You if you want to reach the level that some of these people, the iJustines, the MKBHDs, the Linus Tech Tips, yes, they have people that do advertising. They have people that handle getting advertisers. And we have friends that is their day job. They do podcasts, but their day job is, hey, let's call these companies and see if we can get tech products sent, and let's see if we can get 30-minute ad spot or 30-second ad spots and things like that. And I think what I would hope is, for the future voices of Mac, I hope that the existing voices of Mac can be a little bit more transparent, as Kelly and I often talk about, and just say, no, we can't do this by ourselves. That's why we get together and become the voices of the Mac ecosystem. Or I'm sorry, I've had a whiskey or two. Chuck, what's the tagline?
The Apple community.
No, talk of the Apple community.
Yeah, there we go.
That
I wasn't sure where you were going with that. Well, look, there's Brian in the chat room just paid David a compliment that he always appreciate the In Touch with iOS podcast, and I know there are plenty of people that appreciate this. Or Jay, there are plenty of people that appreciate what you do. Hopefully, you get the rest of you here get some feedback on your appearances here, because I know I get, maybe I don't share enough of it. That they enjoy the conversation. Sometimes they disagree with us. Once in a while, you get somebody that's kind of inflamed about it, and it's like, really, have you listened to this show much? Because we always end up laughing about it, no matter how passionate we might get along the way. So this also has turned into a bit of navel gazing, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. I'd love to hear from the chat room, and for the folks that listen later, I'd love to hear from you. What's your reaction to this? I mean, should we have higher expectations? And, I'll put a little bit of responsibility out on the folks that do enjoy what we do. Tell your friends, retweet, share, subscribe. All those things help, raise the visibility of the show amongst above, some of the noise, and help us get noticed by folks. And maybe we'll all get the emails that say, hey, how did I not know about this before?
I do think. Go ahead. Kelly.
Well, that's the thing that I think sometimes gets unnoticed, which is, there's a reason there's sort of a meme around, the YouTuber that goes like and subscribe, because that's how other people find you who don't already know what's going on, don't know who you are, because you have to sort of feed the algorithm, in order to make sure that people are going to see the thing that you're doing. And part of what I like about being here is a number of things. First of all, I really like it's past tense now, but I used to really like when I would do a show, I would do an episode of Daily Observations, and then I would get a text message from Chuck, and I knew when Chuck was listening because Chuck would send me a text message out of nowhere. I'm in the middle of whatever I'm doing, and I get a message from Chuck that says, "You couldn't be more wrong, Kelly." And I'm like, okay, and it would be because of something that we talked about on the show. And, I've listened to Chuck's podcast and sent him a note and been like, how did you not consider this thing? Or, if you think about it from this way, then, the conclusion is the opposite or whatever. And, part of what I love about doing the show is getting to get everybody's viewpoints. And at the end of it, if we were doing this in person, we would all go sit at the long table in the back of the bar, and we would all have a beer together, and we would all I wouldn't, because I don't drink beer, but we would all sit and have a drink together at the back of the bar, and we'd order, 3 baskets of tots for the table, and we would have a really great time continuing to chat once we were done recording. And that's the thing that I really love about what you've built here, Chuck, with MacVoices Live, is that it's this free form, Andrew and I like to show up with our beverages, and apparently Jay came correct tonight as well. So, we've got kind of a happy hour vibe happening here as we all sit around and kind of, chew on the news of the day or the news of the week. And everybody gets to kind of hear our take on it. And that piece of it is so much fun, because what Jay's going to bring to it, what you're going to bring to it, what Jim and David are going to bring to it, what Andrew brings to it, aside from the requisite joke about how much older I am than he is the part that is really interesting to me. And that's the thing that I love about getting to do this, is that I get to talk back to all of you guys, but you all can hear me, as opposed to it being a podcast where I'm not here and I talk to all of you, but you can't tell what I'm saying.
Jim, I want to get you in, but I want to mention a couple things here real quick. First of all, Andrew got out of here without us saying goodbye. He had told me he had to leave, and he snuck out. So, Andrew, thank you very much for being here, folks. You can find Andrew on the Mac Observer. Second, Brian and Webb said some things here that were really very nice, and I appreciate, and I think, but they also objectively kind of go to the heart of the matter, that they enjoy hearing the personalities come through. They enjoy hearing the different views that we deliver here, because God knows, we seldom all agree on anything. But the nice part about it is that we stay friends, and we can agree to disagree. Even though Jay is wrong all the time, I can respect him. And, right, Jay? Yeah, never mind. Jim, you had something
I see what you did there, and I'm gonna let Jim talk. But I just want to say Beyonce had the best album. Okay, never mind. If you get the reference, you get the reference.
I get the reference. Jim, you have something you want to throw in.
But I wanted to follow up on what Jay said about people saying, how come I've never heard of you? And I think that's, an interesting point that has another flip side to it, which is that these days that person is not, like 20, 25 years ago, if somebody was like, I've never heard of you, that tended to mean, you must not be worth hearing about. And I don't think people have that feeling anymore. It's like they're used to little operations out of nowhere, having worthwhile things, where 25 years ago, it was like, well, if you're a little operation, there must be a reason. So I think that even something that's little, it's like people are more than willing to discover something and go, oh, this is great. I'm happy to learn about this. And like in my case, like it used to be 25 years ago, people like, oh, well, FileMaker is so big, so why should I care about you? It's kind of thing that I would see. And again, as far as like in the commentary, whatever field, we're kind of leaving out, like if we're saying, well, there was a golden age of being able to get into this. Well, if you look back 20, 25 years ago, it was Macworld, Mac User, and Mac Week. And those were the big
Mac Week.
Those were the big, things where people got their news, and, all the other, anything, tidbits or whatever, that was, that was just sort and I'd still say, like a lot of these names that we're talking out, most people haven't heard of them. One thing that, it greatly saddens me is, my product has gotten tons of great reviews in tidbits over the years. Nobody knows who they are. And, so even like, when I used to be at Macworld or something, it's like, oh, look at this great review we got in tidbits. Who? And if it wasn't, you got a great review in Macworld, now forget it. Doesn't even count. But I do think that now there's less of that. People are just used to, I haven't heard of anything. So they're open to, oh, well, you got something new? Tell me about it. I'm willing to judge you on their own terms. And I see that in my software business, that, people are like, why haven't I heard of you? But they're like, I'm so thrilled to have heard of you. They're not like, oh, you must be, on the edge of going bankrupt because I haven't heard of you.
Jim, that's such a great point, because there's some there are a number of websites out there that will surface an app that is like, that's exactly what I want. How have I never heard of this before?
Well, it's just so hard to find anything.
Yep.
That, I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years, and I'm, constantly finding, I just found a World Clock. Somebody, I think, where did I see somebody who's mentioned it on a podcast, and I'm like, what the heck is that? I think Jeff mentioned it on something. Oh yeah, I think it was, I happened to watch the British Tech Network live, which I'd never seen before, and a couple of people were like, "Oh, there's this World Clock thing," and I went and downloaded it. I'm like, "They're right. This is awesome. I've never heard of it before." It's just impossible for anyone, even if that's their full-time job, to keep track of everything. And but the flip side is, well, when you discover something, it's like, well, okay, it's reasonable that I never heard of it. And, let's see what this is and judge it on its own merits. And, yeah.
And I've been kind of harsh, referring only in TikTok in the form of dances on iPads. I have to admit, like, it's a wormhole. It will get you sucked in. It is hard to escape that grasp. And that's the thing that I think has become the challenge. It's like the blessing and the curse is you can find your platform, and there are plenty to choose from. And there are people that will only like your platform and will not like the other platforms for whatever reasons. I had a friend ask me how many podcasts I'm subscribed to, and I just told him too many. It's a 3-digit number. So
I think that's all of us.
Yeah. So like, but for me, like I grew up, with Kelly wanting to be on the radio. The radio had such a fundamental part of my life. So when I think of how I would prefer to consume content, it's audio only, someone with a glowing personality explaining to me why I should really like or not like this thing. And I have tried to become that voice, that thing that I always wanted to be when I grew up, and instead of radio, I did internet radio because, bless you, internet, the terrestrial radio still exists. It's a little bit more satellite these days. A little bit more syndicated, less opportunities, just like with everything else that we're doing.
Everything else.
So it's the industries are changing, but the avenues in which people can reach their community, can find their community, are getting wider and wider. I wonder, have we just reached that point, like Chuck said, where we're just old fuddy-duddies complaining because our way of doing things isn't necessarily the most popular? I mean, even back in, it wasn't the most popular. So like, how do we encourage that next generation? Because I mean, Andrew's not here anymore, but I want folks like Andrew in the industry. I want new and exciting voices, new takes, new opinions, voices that have been trying to get in for years, but why have I never heard of them?
I don't think you'll be able to stop them. I'm not worried about encouraging them. They're going to,
if they want it bad enough.
Yeah. Well, my question is it up to us as the people who are quote unquote more established to amplify their voice, to bring them into these conversations and invite them onto MacVoices and to have them share opinions?
This edition of MacVoices is supported by Truebill. Get control of your subscriptions at truebill.com/MacVoices. The nice thing about a subscription is that you can just set it and forget it. Unfortunately, you're still being charged after you forget it. Get in control of your subscriptions with Truebill. 40% of people recently said that they're overwhelmed by the number of subscriptions they pay for. The other 60% probably forgot they subscribed in the first place. Are you among them? Let Truebill do the work and set you free. Average users save $720 using Truebill. Knowing that if you got rid of all the subscriptions that you don't need, or you forgot about, you could save hundreds of dollars is very different from going to all the trouble to actually remember, find, and cancel them. That's why you need Truebill. You can see all of your subscriptions in one place and cancel them right from within the app. Featured in Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, and Fortune, Truebill has earned thousands of 5-star reviews and saved its members over $100 million. Start canceling your unused subscriptions at truebill.com/MacVoices. Go right now, truebill.com/MacVoices. It could save you thousands a year. truebill.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Truebill for supporting MacVoices. Jay, that's exactly why I'm so delighted that Brittany and Andrew both will come, and we're talking behind their backs now, but they can listen later.
I mean, you can talk about me. I'm only like a year older than Andrew.
Okay.
I was going to say, like,
not that old.
Jay, you're here.
Yeah, you too. I mean, that's it. I like the perspective that that we bring, that Kelly brings and Jeff Gamet brings, because they've been around the block for so long. But I also like what Jay brings and Brittany brings and Andrew brings. Doesn't mean we have to agree with it, or but they see the world completely differently, and I like that a lot. Because it helps me grow, even at this stage of the broadcast career or my work career. I still love new ideas. I love to learn. And if you lose that, man, I'm sorry. I feel so bad for you.
And I think that piece of it is what draws us to technology too, is the part about how I like to learn a new thing, and I have a little less patience with it than I used to, but I still like to sit down and learn a thing. And I think that's awesome. And, clicking around the interface of something so that I can help somebody figure out how to do the thing that they're trying to do, is still something that I really like doing. And so like the intersection of getting to help people and then additionally like learning a new thing is super great. And so being able to then take all of that and go talk about it, I will go try all of the checklist apps that are in the App Store that I can get my hands on and see how they are and tell you about them so you don't have to. I have thrown myself on the checklist hand grenade on your behalf, dear listener, or whatever. And as long as there are problems with things like economies of scale, which the App Store is going to fight now and forever because there are many, many apps in the App Store. As soon as there got to be more than about 20, which, it had more than that when it launched, like they had a discoverability problem and they still haven't figured out a good way to resolve it. So that sort of thing makes it easy for us to be able to do our jobs, because what I'm looking for is something that will let me put the checkboxes on the left-hand side because I hold my phone in my left hand because I am left-handed. And so that's going to be something that Chuck's going to be interested in because Chuck is also left-handed. Or somebody, I know like all of us are or something. Like at one point we sat around and went, is everybody here left-handed? And the answer was
not
yes.
Jim.
And I'm not.
Yeah. Well, the night that the night we talked about it, I don't think you were here. So,
wow.
Yeah. And then, but like, those pieces of like, I've done that. And so like, now you don't have to. And then, David has sat down and looked at all of the whatever, and Jay has looked at like, every single light available. And so now I know, like, I don't have to go read a bunch of reviews. I just need to go to Jay and go, Jay, like, tell me what light it is I need to buy. And then he'll tell me. And then, I'll indulge in a little retail therapy. I'll feel a little better. And then, yeah. So Jay, I already set you up, so go ahead and go for it.
No. Jim has a thing.
This is a quick thing. I was going to say, it could be argued that I'm the newest one here of everybody, because I never did any kind of commentary until a year ago, starting on this show. I've been in the business for, a long time, and I've hung around journalists, but I've never done any media. And so let me also thank Chuck for giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate it. It's been very fun. And it's something I had thought of that I would like to do media type stuff, but I never really did anything about it. And it's been great. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
Hey, you're always welcome, Jim, because you bring a different perspective to it. And that's, I've said this publicly before, and I've said it privately too. I'll put this panel up against any panel that's out there, because I feel like it does represent a lot of different angles and different aspects of this community. And nothing makes me happier than when we can, add somebody else to the mix that brings yet another aspect to it. I did want to say one thing Brian pointed out in the chat room. I think this is really interesting, that he enjoys hearing us on each other's shows. And I've heard just exactly the opposite at times. That it's like, oh, well, it's the same people, you're just talking under a different banner. But he says that it's that they're different personalities of the shows, and different. Each show has its own personality while still covering similar topics. And I agree with that. I know I'm different on David when I'm on David's show, or when I'm on the British Tech Network when it's not my show, because I can be a little more relaxed and I don't have to be managing the chat room or, trying to watch and see who wants to make the next comment. So thank you, Brian. That's much appreciated. Sometimes you wonder if we are a little too overexposed, but on the other hand, we enjoy each other, and that's, right. That's a lot of fun. Okay.
I listened to a podcast called Food Safety Talk, and Jay listens to it too. Cool. And sometimes they have guests on there, not that often, but recently they had, of all people, Casey Liss, and that was definitely interesting to talk about being in a different environment. That was sometimes I do think that it's like, oh well, I'm just hearing the same people over and over again. But other times, like when Adam was on John Gruber's show, that was really interesting. And when Jim Dalrymple was on. So, yeah, it can be interesting.
Yeah.
Got lots of personalities out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, Jay has the big finish, and then we're going to wrap up and see where we can find folks. But Jay, this is your big shot, your biggest shot of the night.
All right, folks. We started out with stories of people doing things for a long time and deciding that it might be time to hang up their spurs or do something different. And I posed the question, what is the state of our existence as content creators? And I did that all as a ploy to encourage you that even though it looks glib, even though you might not be able to make a full-time career of it, at the same time, you have such a wonderful opportunity to meet so many wonderful people, to learn so many new things, different things that you never would expect. And to be honest, it's those experiences that's the reason why when people say, how come I haven't heard of you and before, it's not because you're new. It's because your voice is unique and your voice is refreshing. Your voice is a fresh light in sometimes an often dim environment. So I'm happy to say that the state of our content creating union is strong, is still going, and will continue to move on even in these unprecedented times.
I'm not even going to try to touch that. Thank you, Jay.
On that note.
On that
Wow.
note, yeah.
Let me
On
just
that
say
note.
the thing that's the most interesting to me about this is that it's also never been easier to get into the game. It was hard when I started. It was hard to be, it was hard to get a gig writing for Macworld. It was hard to get a gig writing for a website if you didn't already know somebody there. It was not the easiest thing. And all you have to do now is haul off and point your phone at yourself and go, hi, I'm Kelly. Here's what's up. And then go from there. And that's all you have to do. And it has never been easier to create that content. Like Jay was saying, to be a content creator, all you have to do is create content. You have more avenues than ever before to give it to people. You have more ways to let other people know about your content than ever before. And, even like I remember, years ago when I would help people with like, here's how you can have a podcast. Here's how you can build a website. Here's how you can get your social media presence out there so that people can find you if they're looking on Facebook or Twitter or whatever for a recommendation. And this is how you can become part of that conversation. And it's never been easier to do it. And I've been saying that for like however many years, because every year it gets easier to be a person who can put that stuff out there for everyone to see. So we've talked about it not being a full-time gig, but definitely like it's never been easier to get started than it has been today.
And email Chuck. Email your podcast to Chuck and tell Chuck to listen and give you feedback. And everybody email Chuck because he wants to listen to all the shows and he wants to hear all of the opinions and all the views and he wants to bring you onto his show. So after this, create your show, create your YouTube channel, create your TikTok dances, but most importantly, email Chuck.
On that note, before Jay says anything else that's going to get me in trouble, let's go around the room and find out where you can find these delinquents when they're not here on Tuesday nights trying to destroy
that remark. How dare you?
Trying to destroy my life. So I'm going to flip it around and start with the last first. So, Jim, thank you for being here. Thank you for flying the Ukrainian flag. And again, we hope the best for our friends who are under the gun, literally. Jim, where can folks find you?
Well, you can find me at provue.com, provue.com, and also on Twitter at provuejim, same spelling. And I wasn't going to mention it, but since it sort of came up, I am going to be speaking at the Portland Mac Users Group in a week from Monday. So I believe that's March 10th.
Great.
Awesome.
Not in person, right? You're going to be online.
That's not in person? Yeah, no, it's going to be on Zoom. Yeah.
If you were going to be in Portland, I didn't know, I was going to be really upset with you here. We were going to throw down in the middle of MacVoices.
If I get to Portland, you will know. I have spoken in Portland before. And if it weren't for the pandemic, I probably would be in Oregon in 2.5 weeks, because there's an event in Corvallis that I usually go to and would like to go to, but I'm not going to go to.
If you were in Portland, you would drink for free, my friend.
That would be a very economical for you.
Kelly Guimont, thank you for being here. Where can we find you?
Oh, God, I don't even know how to answer that question anymore.
Fix it.
It's already fixed. That's why I was gonna leave and come back, and I didn't.
Yeah, you usually have this whole spiel that's like.
No, because it used to be, because I used to talk about
remove the one part and
5 days a week. So let's see, where do I even start now? When Mike Rose formerly of Tua, and Kelly Guimont, formerly of Tua, can get our collective poop in a group, you can find us over at aftershowpodcast.com or the _aftershow on Twitter. You can listen to us talk about such in-depth topics as the ports on the back of my 4K monitor, and Elaine Stritch, who has somehow become a recurring character on our show. You can find me over at The Incomparable, which is run by the lovely and talented Jason Snell, who continues to let me shoot my mouth off on his behalf over at The Incomparable. I recently did a rambunctious episode of Game Show. If you have not heard it, it was, I believe the accurate phrase is Crazy Town Banana Pants. If you have not heard that episode, definitely go check it out. I host a show over there called I Want My MCU TV. At some point later this year, as soon as HBO gives me a date, you can hear Don Melton and I talk about Westworld over at Greetings from the Uncanny Valley, which is part of the Incomparable Network. And the rest of the time, if you haven't had enough of me here yelling underpants at Chuck, you can find me on Twitter as Verso.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. You did fine.
Well done.
Mr. President, or excuse me, Jay, where can folks find you?
Never going to happen. You can follow me on Twitter at Chuck Joyner. Send all your hate mail there. No, you can.
If you have love notes for Jay, you can send them to jay@macvoices.com. If you have a hate mail for Jay, you can send it to devnull@macvoices.com.
Exactly. That might bounce.
Yeah, you can find me on the internet, all things at KJAY Miller. Also, I always tell people this. If you ever see me in person and you say, I want some ice cream, I will treat you to some ice cream in wherever climb I'm at. And I'm only saying that because for the next few weeks, I will be in Austin, Texas. So if you're in Austin, Texas, and you see my hair running around and you say, Jay, I'll turn around and you just say, I want some ice cream, and we'll make it happen. But also you can find me on relay.fm/conduit, where I talk about all the productivity, but none of the apps. And have fun, make your stuff, tell Chuck about it. I'm sure I look forward to his responses in the future.
So much.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you. Oh boy. David Ginsburg, thank you so much for being here. I don't even know what to say except thank you, because this one really was off the rails.
It was. Thank you for having me as always. And you can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithIOS.com. Had a scheduling change, so Andrew Orr is going to actually be on this week. Probably by the time you hear this, he'll already be on. So, you
got Andrew to do a podcast.
Yeah, can you believe it? You can find me at on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/DaveG65, and I'm on the Mac Show on Fridays usually, and on the British Tech Network. And you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65. Thank you.
Great, thank you, David. Thank you, Folks, thank you for showing up. Thanks to everyone in the chat room for all the nice comments and the thoughts on our discussion. There were some really great ones in there. I tried to share as many as I could. They went by a little bit. I didn't get to everybody, but thank you guys. And thank you to everyone out there for tuning in and listening to this. This ended up being quite a bit different show than we had planned, but that's the way Mac Voices Live goes. We just never know which direction the discussions will go. So Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific is where you'll find us right here, youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We'd love to see you here next week as we talk about whatever we're going to talk about. And in the spirit of the show, I'm going to say, share this video, share the audio, like, subscribe, retweet, whatever it is. Let's help grow things so that as Andrew grows up, he can have a job.
And then share it with Chuck.
Tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and they tell two friends,
and so
in
on,
case you're somebody who gets that reference. So there you go.
Oh boy. Until next time, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices Live. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.